Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's jump right in. Today, we're unpacking something that has the power to absolutely transform your agriculture education classroom. We are talking about inquiry-based learning, or IBL. But listen, we aren't just going to sit here and debate educational theory. We're looking closely at how shifting your daily instructional methods can build true grit, resilience, and high-level problem-solving skills in your students. If you're looking to move past just having kids memorize facts and want to actually cultivate a generation of doers who can tackle real-world ag challenges, you are definitely in the right place. Let's start things off by reflecting on one critical question. How are you cultivating inquiring minds in your classroom? Think about your entire program for a second, from the shop floor all the way to the greenhouse. Are your students just kind of waiting around for you to hand them the answers? Or are they actively digging for them? It's a bit of a provocative question, I know, but it's exactly the mindset we need as we explore the tools that'll help you shift that balance. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the power of curiosity, define inquiry-based learning, tackle goals and grit, and then transition into the Ag Lab. After that, we'll look at some global agricultural problems and finish up with how to cultivate the next generation. Section 1. The power of curiosity and tapping into natural instincts. You know, it's amazing how simple this foundational concept really is. Humans are literally evolutionarily programmed to observe the world and ask questions. Just think about your own instincts as an ag teacher. You walk into your lab, you spot a wrench left out on a workbench, and your brain instantly starts firing off questions. Who was on cleanup duty? What project were they even working on? Why did they leave it there? You naturally seek out a solution. Well, curiosity is the absolute core concept behind inquiry-based learning. The entire goal is to stop feeding students the final answer and instead harness that innate biological drive so they can figure things out for themselves.
Moving on to Section 2, defining inquiry-based learning and moving beyond direct instruction.
Let's demystify what we're actually talking about here. When we hear IBL, a lot of us picture this chaotic, totally open-ended agri-science fair project, right? But it's so much broader than that. Inquiry-based learning is a collection of student-centered methods. It prioritizes ideas, questions, and analysis over explicit direct instruction. Basically, it means you stop being the sole provider of information. Instead, you become the architect of a scenario where students have to examine a topic to find the answers themselves. It is all about the process of discovery. And this actually builds into a really structured process. There are 4 key phases to IBL. First up is orientation. This is where a student becomes aware of a concept, maybe through an immersive scenario you've set up. Second is conceptualization. They start refining their questions and proposing potential explanations. Third is investigation, which is the hands-on phase where they experiment and interpret data. And finally, conclusions, presenting the accuracy of their initial ideas. Honestly, whether it's a welding practicum, a livestock breeds lesson, or working on an agribusiness balance sheet, if it has these 4 phases, it's inquiry. Now, a lot of teachers fear that IBL means total classroom chaos. But here's the crucial point. It's actually a sliding scale. You absolutely do not have to let go of the steering wheel on day 1. You can start at level 1, confirmation inquiry, where you're still teaching the concepts and modeling the process. Then, as your students get trained in how to think critically, you slowly ease them into levels 2 and 3. Eventually, they'll be ready for level 4, open inquiry, where they are formulating their own questions and designing the investigations entirely on their own.
Section 3, goals, grit, and problem solving. Let's dig into the why of IBL.
So, why go through all the effort of restructuring your lessons? Well, because IBL acts as an essential nutrient to grow capable adults. Teach Thought really hit the nail on the head with these 4 benefits. Yes, it fosters a love of learning, but more importantly, it teaches grit, perseverance, and a growth mindset. Think about it. When students hit a wall in a traditional lecture, they tune out. But when they hit a wall in an inquiry lab, they have to pivot, troubleshoot, and push through. This directly enables them to take ownership of their work, set goals, and actually reach them. It transforms them into the independent problem solvers that our future desperately needs. Take this amazing example. Picture a group of high school students in Kansas working on a greenhouse hydroponics system. What's incredible here isn't just the system itself, it's the goal setting. These students decided they wanted to build it, and they designed it themselves, step by step. The sheer amount of inquiry, planning, and goal-oriented focus required to pull that off is staggering. This isn't a teacher saying, hey, build this using these exact instructions. No, this is a student completely owning their education, setting a target, and figuring out the mechanics of how to hit it.
Now, to make that kind of magic happen, you have to follow this golden rule from educator Joanne Pfeiffer. And trust me, it's a tough one. Do not give in to the temptation of giving them the answers. See, students have been trained by years of traditional schooling that if they just look confused and wait long enough, the teacher will eventually cave and give them the answer. Waiting them out is exactly how you build grit. When they ask for help, respond with a guiding question instead. Make them look at it from another angle. It is incredibly hard to break our habit of jumping in to rescue them. We're teachers, we want to help, but withholding that easy answer is literally the greatest gift you can give their problem-solving skills.
All right, section 4, transitioning your ag lab. Let's move from philosophy to practicality. Let's look at a fantastic example straight from an agricultural mechanics lab. Here, students are tackling an electrical circuit wiring exercise, specifically working with diagrams for a 1949 Ford 8N tractor. The instructor didn't just stand at the front and demonstrate how to wire it. Instead, the kids were put into independent groups with wiring diagram notebooks and simply told to figure it out. They had to live test their circuits, and when things didn't work, because let's face it, blown fuses and backward wiring are just a normal Tuesday in an electricity lab, they were forced to troubleshoot and problem solve together as a team. To make this work, the instructor set up some brilliant guardrails. First, students were mandated to consult the wiring diagrams before doing anything else. Second, they were actively encouraged to experiment with different techniques to fix their issues. And third, this is absolutely my favorite part, the teacher instituted a finder's fee. If a group wanted to consult the teacher to solve their problem, it cost them a 2% point deduction on the exercise. I mean, how great is that? Suddenly, the teacher isn't the first resort. The teacher is the absolute last resort. It forces students to rely on their peers and their own critical thinking. And, the specific setting really doesn't matter. Whether a student is wiring a duplex outlet out in the shop or sitting at a desk using a dichotomous key to dissect a flower, the core principle remains exactly the same. The student is the worker, and you are the coach. Your heavy lifting is done in the creation of the lesson and setting up those guardrails. Their job is to search, think, and discover the knowledge for themselves. Section 5, Real-World Agricultural Problems and Preparing for 2050. Let's scale this up. When we start using IBL to tackle massive global problems, we kind of have to change how we measure success. Instead of a traditional project with strict rubrics and exact, specific answers, we shift to frameworks like the Bayer Food Solutions Challenge. It acts a lot more like a business model canvas. It asks students to formulate short and medium-term goals for incredibly complex issues where there really are no single right answers. You practically have to throw out the standard grading scale. Instead, you focus on how well the students can justify their open-ended solutions based on the hard evidence they researched. And these are the types of heavy challenges they're tackling. We're talking about sustaining 10 billion people by the year 2050, figuring out how to create entirely carbon-neutral food supply chains, or zooming in on specific global issues, like mitigating food loss in cassava production before it even reaches the consumer. Framing these massive, real-world problems gives students a vital sense of purpose. It shows them that their curiosity, their grit, and their problem-solving skills have value far beyond just earning a letter grade. They are literally practicing to save the world. And finally, Section 6, Cultivating the Next Generation. Small steps to big impact. Look, transitioning your teaching style can definitely feel a bit overwhelming, so start small. First, pick a familiar subject. Take a lesson you already know inside and out, and just tweak it to be slightly more student-led. Second, ask why daily. Turn your classroom into an environment where "why did this happen?" is the most commonly spoken phrase. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, allow failure. Sometimes a completely botched experiment teaches a student way more than a perfect one ever could, because now they have to dig in and investigate exactly what went wrong. Yes, inquiry-based learning takes more upfront planning, and it definitely takes a whole lot of patience. But senior students take immense pride in a project they navigated all by themselves. That is the ultimate reward. Watching a student confidently justify their own data, build those real-world connections, and develop the grit to overcome obstacles in the lab is exactly why we became teachers in the first place. You are giving them the ultimate cross-curricular career skill, the ability to think for themselves. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Take a look at your lesson plan for tomorrow. What is one small modification you can make to spark inquiry? Can you hold back the easy answer for just 5 minutes? Could you implement a finder's fee for your help? Take one immediate empowering step in your very next class to start cultivating an inquiring mind. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking why
and keep letting your students find the how.